What's going on, everybody? No Life Wood back here once again, and this video is going to be in a slightly different format than I've used for other videos. Typically, I will fully script out what I write, but this time I'm kind of freeballing it because I want to give a more authentic and fair opinion about what I'm talking about. Now, speaking of what I'm talking about, today we are covering Anime Clash, or more specifically, the failure of Anime Clash's re-release. Now, as of time of recording, the game still has about 4,000 players. So I say failure when the game still has a player base, but once I explain a little bit more, you're going to understand. So, context. I believe Anime Clash attempted to fully release about a month ago, but had to close due to a completely buggy and near unplayable experience. The significance of this release was that they had an AFK chamber set up a few days before the game came out that you could sit in to earn stuff in game and a super limited mythical super rare unit or whatever before the game's launch, so that once you got in you would have a head start over other players. And that AFK chamber averaged over 100,000 players. Basically, 100,000 people on a game that didn't even exist yet, just waiting for the game to drop. So imagine everyone's surprise when the game comes out, and it is a miserable, buggy, unplayable experience. However, the reason that I waited for Anime Clash to re-release before I made this video was because I didn't think that the bugs of the game were the issue with it. I thought that the main concept of the game itself was the issue. When I was looking up videos about it before the game even released, I saw the gameplay and I was like, how are people hyped for this at all? It looked like the most boring thing I'd ever seen on a Roblox platform, comparable to like the anime fighters where you have little grunts that you have to click on an enemy and then they go attack. It had gameplay almost as bad as that. Additionally, there was some issues going on with the development team, I believe. I brought this up in another video, but I believe the game manager, whose name was Jameer, was kicked off the team, and it resulted in him kind of having a breakdown on Twitter and making a video literally crying about it. Now, I have looked for this video and I cannot find it, but you have to trust me on this. He was literally on Twitter crying about it. But listen, right? The game closed, manager changed, and it's been a month. So I'm like, give the game time to cook, right? Because it did have some quality aspects of it, kinda, or at least it had the potential for that. So I gave it a month to cook. The game re-released, and bad. That's coming from someone who's only played the game for a few hours so far. Some context. On the day of re-release, or the day after, I can't remember, I tried playing the game and there was a game-breaking bug immediately where you just couldn't hop in the pods that would allow you to do missions at all. Private servers weren't freely available at the time, and all of this had to be patched out. That was enough. I was already not in the mood to play a game like that. I already knew I wouldn't like it. I just wanted to play it to make a review on it, but it didn't even work. So I hopped off for the day and I come back a few days later. That would be now, right? So, I'm going to talk about the only part of the game that I actually liked before I have to get into all of the negative stuff. That being said, the lobby. I actually enjoyed the lobby. I think it was functional. I think it serves that property of a tower defense game where the lobby is something you can stomach to just jump around in for a little bit when you're bored or waiting on something to happen, because that's how these tower defense games or wave defense games tend to play out. I thought it was a little odd that they were hiding codes on random walls in the map. I think it's something that would sound interesting on paper, but in practice, nobody really wants to look for all that, and everybody's just going to end up looking up the codes online, so it was kind of a waste of your personal development time. Either way, though, back to the lobby, I think it looks nice. I think that the speed boosts that you can take around the map are cool when you don't want to just immediately get into the grinding. You want to wander around for a little bit, just do stuff. I remember back in Anime Adventures, back in All-Star Tower Defense, and even a little bit in Anime Last Stand, you catch yourself kind of subconsciously just running around the map. So having a lobby that can handle that is a good thing in my opinion. Unfortunately, that's pretty much where my positive criticism of this game ends. Once you get into the actual game, you kind of start to see what it is, and for me personally, it's not a good game. Wave defense is not a new genre. It's been a thing for a while, but it's rarely attempted on Roblox, probably because it's really hard to make exciting. While this game is classified as a wave defense, I believe what it was most similar to, in my opinion, was Clash Royale, but without any of the special tactics that make Clash Royale a fun game. It was very bland and boring, but on top of being bland and boring, it is very attention requiring. Not attention grabbing, but attention requiring. See, when it comes to a tower defense game, the best part about it is how you don't always have to be active looking at your screen to play it. It's going to have the flashy elements, you're going to place a unit down, but typically on your other screen, you're going to have YouTube, anime, or even homework. You're always doing something different. When it comes to this game, it kind of wants you to micromanage all your units and always be on top of everything, right? It wants you to micromanage a game. That's cool for a game like Clash Royale where there is strategy and tactics available, right? But for a game like this, where it's pulling from that tower defense aspect of you pull on a unit, you make it as strong as you can, and then you sit it down and let it wreak havoc, that's something that Clash Royale avoided for a reason, because it takes away from the fun of micromanaging everything, right? You're staring at the screen, but the gameplay is extremely basic. At most, there's a flying enemy and a boss enemy every once in a while, but for the most part, you're just putting down whatever your most powerful unit is and upgrading it. They tried to spice it up with the buffing mechanic where you press Z and you can apply some kind of buff or throw down a meteor, but it really doesn't add that much depth to the gameplay. And that's why I believe this game has failed. Once again, at time of recording, it has about 4,000 players, but keep in mind just a month ago, the game had 100,000 players waiting in an AFK chamber alone. To flop that kind of player base says something about the game that I don't really have to explain. Now, I feel the need to provide constructive feedback because simply hating on the game isn't really enough for me. I want to tell the devs how they could possibly improve on the game. So, before I do that, I want to talk about a developer message that they sent out, talking about some of the stuff that they will be improving soon to make the game a little bit better. They're talking about they're going to switch all moves to AoE, which is interesting. Improve the visuals. The visuals were certainly lacking. They're slightly below average for the genre of game that they're trying to go for. They're adding new units, they're adding a new map, and they're adding more rewarding gameplay. All that is cool, but when we're talking about a game like this, something that they have to add is complexity. What do I mean by complexity? Once again, I'm going to have to compare it to Clash Royale because that is the perfect example of how to do one of these matches well. Introduce a unit that maybe splits into a bunch of other units like Lava Hound. Introduce every unit right now is a building unit, so maybe add some units that walk forward a little bit. I think they've already talked about that. In general, what they need to do is they need to add more complexity to the enemies, to add more strategic tactics, add kiting, add it, make it so that my placement of my units can completely alter if I win or lose a fight. So say I'm placing a unit in a very simple spot just right in front of the enemy, maybe I lose that. Maybe I do have to smarten up and place to the side a bit to kite an enemy away to get in a better position where I can hit my AoEs better. There needs to be game depth and complexity, because right now, as a first impression, and the first impression was enough to get me to stop playing the game, I joined the game, I go into the wave defense mode, I place down units, they kill things. That was really it. The better your luck is at the gacha, my friend pulled 2 modders, the easier the game is. All he had to do was click update a bunch of times, a big Susanoo appeared, and it killed everything. There's no strategy and there's no tactic to that. It's boring. It's a foundational game. They need to improve the hook of the game, then they need to keep on that train and improve it as the game goes on. Right now, the game has potential, but it's going to take development time and effort and consistency to evolve that potential into something that's going to retain players and gain more players. I honestly think that the game needed even more time than it had to cook. I don't know who is enjoying this game. I can see why you might enjoy it if the game was in the state that Clash Royale is, where it has more complexity. But right now, I would say it's not something that is worth playing. That's my 2 cents on the matter. This has been No Life Wood. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe if you don't mind. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Love you. Adios.